Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of how to make drum covers. Actually, how to make better sounding drum covers. My name is Jeff, and if you enjoy drum videos, if you enjoy drum covers, you enjoy drum tutorials, drum lessons, equipment reviews, I do all that stuff. Please consider clicking the notification bell, subscribing to my channel, all that garbage so you don't miss any. So last week, we talked about how to make a better sounding cover just using our camera, audio. So if you missed the last video, here's a link up in the thingamabobber. So go ahead and check that out. Now, in this video, I want to talk about incorporating some external microphones into our recording setup. And this can be extremely simple to somewhat intermediate, okay? In order to make this happen, you're going to need a couple things, okay, depending how complicated you want to get. The easiest, simplest way would be to buy yourself a microphone or recording device, okay, that's all in one. And you could do a couple things. You could get, Zoom makes the IQ7, and it's a really nice little microphone that actually just plugs into your smartphone. And I think IQ7 is for the iPhone only. I think they do make them that are compatible with headphone jacks. I'm sure they do. Why wouldn't it? It'd be a stupid business decision to not make one compatible with headphone jacks. And basically all that is, it's a nice little microphone you plug right in your phone. You would just use that in coordination with everything we did in part 1. Now, we could also record, or we could also use an external recorder, and Zoom makes an external recorder called the Zoom H6, and you would place that around the room where you're getting the best drum sound. Hit record, do your thing, like I showed you how to do in part 1. You could load it either into a digital audio workstation and play with the sound, or you could just upload it straight into your video editor and mix the two together like that with the camera. You can even like mix in a little bit of the camera audio too with the audio from the recorder, and then mix it with your source audio. That is not the most cost-effective way, because those Zoom recorders, as good as they sound, they are about $400. Now, the next step would be to use one external microphone and a mixing board / interface. Now, there's a couple ways you could go about this. You could go out, you could buy an SM57, put it in the middle of the room, and everybody, if you don't know what an SM57 is, if you see a picture of it, you're like, oh yeah, I know that microphone. It's a really famous microphone. It's used on everything. I'll leave a link in the description below, just like I will with the Zoom H6, okay? Now, what I would recommend, maybe getting a little better microphone, because you can get a microphone like this. This is the MXL 2006, and this is what's known as a condenser microphone, a large diaphragm condenser. And it's going to have a little bit of a fuller sound. It's going to pick up the sound of the drums in the room better. Actually, probably very similar to the Zoom H6. You're going to get a very similar recording picture. Whereas, like, if you just use a 57, the dynamic, or not necessarily the dynamic, but the frequency range is going to be a little limited. Where this is going to give you a wider picture of the frequency range of the drum kit. Because drums are, see, here's the thing. A drum set's one big instrument. It's not a series of individual instruments. I mean, it is a series of individual instruments, but we want it to sound like one great big instrument. Like, everybody talks about the John Bonham sound, and the John Bonham sound was the sound of his entire drum kit. The overtones, the cymbals ringing, the overtones on the snare drum and the bass drum, and it was all mixed together to get that really nice, full, thick sounding drum track. So if you were to go the one mic set, you would need a microphone and a mixer / interface, okay? Behringer makes mixer / interface, and it's called the Behringer Q1202, and it's about $119. You know, if you're wanting to go that route, you would buy a large diaphragm condenser, that mixer, okay, because it's a little expandable. It's got a few different outputs, or I'm sorry, a few different inputs if you wanted to add more microphones down the road. And what that thing does, and what a mixer does, if you don't know what a mixer is, it's going to take your sound, all the different microphones coming in. If you are using more than one mic, it mixes them all together, change the levels just there on the mixer. You turn certain channels up, certain channels down, and then it's going to send a stereo signal just to your computer. And then you would dump it into a DAW or a digital audio workstation, which is one more thing you're going to need. Now, there are several different digital audio workstations, or DAW. They run the range from absolutely to free up to $1,000. A free one that most everybody's familiar with would be Audacity. Don't use Audacity. I've tried Audacity. It's fine. It's fine. If you just want to go the Audacity route, that's fine. What I use is a program called Reaper, and I notice a lot of guys doing drum covers use Reaper. And what Reaper is, it's a full functioning digital audio workstation. It's got all kinds of bells and whistles. Because it's got all these bells and whistles, it's a little harder to learn than Audacity. So it's got a bit of a steep learning curve. But once you learn it, you can make some really, really good sound recordings. And the amazing thing was, in Reaper, which is actually $60, but there is a free version that has everything. So you have access to everything in the free version. The only thing is it takes a couple minutes to load. If you're impatient like me, I'll pay the $60. They put a lot of work into this thing. I think it's worth the $60. The next setup would be a multi-microphone setup. Now, I personally would recommend skipping the one mic with the mixer or just the standalone recorder. If you have the money to get it, it's an investment that's going to go a long way. And Sabian Cymbals, they make a mixer / interface and 3 microphone setup called the Sabian Sound Kit. And what it is, it's got 1 bass drum mic, and then it has 2 overhead condenser mics. And another thing that is very important, if you buy a condenser mic requires an external power source to work. Now, most mixers have this power source built in. And what that power source, it's called phantom power. So if you're going to buy a condenser mic, you want to make sure that the mixer has phantom power built into it. And it's usually just a switch. You click it on the back and boom, your microphone works. But without that phantom power, condenser mic's not going to work. But the good thing about the Sabian Sound Kit, like I said, link in the description below, it's got everything you need. It's the mixer. It's the microphones. It's the interface. All mixed together, okay? And it comes with some instructions on how to get a good drum sound. Like a lot of the trial and error that us guys that started doing this on our own in our basement is wiped out, because it's going to show you how to do it, how to position your microphones. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to have a video of how to kind of incorporate this stuff into the DAW or the digital audio workstation, and just kind of some little tips and tricks on how to mix and how to set this up. So just setting up a simple recording project into our DAW. Now, and what we're going to do is, this is going to be if we're using an external mixer, and for argument's sake, we're going to say we're using the Sabian Sound Kit like I talked about before, which is going to be a 3 microphone setup, 2 overhead condenser microphones, and a kick drum mic. Now, you could also use this with an external recorder. So if you're using the Zoom H6 or the Zoom IQ7, you would go and record it outside of the DAW, okay? And then you would dump the audio from your recorder into your computer, and then you would insert a media file. I'll go through that in a little bit. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to set up a couple tracks. We're going to need a track of what we're playing along with, and then we're going to need a track for the drums that we are actually recording. That's what first thing you need to do is you need to set your DAW up so it recognizes your interface that you're using. Now, for argument's sake, I'm going to say we're using the Sabian Sound Kit. I don't own one, so it's not going to show up here. So just pretend. Play along with me here. You see, if I come over here and I click, let's go back here so you can see how I did that. Reaper, then go down to Preferences, and then see right here where it says Audio Device. I have several different audio devices. Now, if I was using the Sabian Sound Kit, that would most likely show up as Sabian Sound Kit. If I was using the Behringer Q1202, that would show up. I use a Behringer XR18, and it always shows up here when it's plugged in. And you'd have to plug your USB cable in. You'd have to have it plugged in for it to show up. It's not plugged in, so it's not going to show up. So let's just, for argument's sake, let's say the USB audio devices is the Sabian Sound Kit. So I select the USB audio device, click Apply, and in theory, it's going to recognize everything. The next thing I need to do is I need to add a track. So I come up here and I hit Insert Track, okay? Then I need to arm that track, okay? So I can see how much signal is going to that. See right here where it says record arm, disarm? All right. It's recording. It's not recording, but it's ready to record. It's like clicking the safety off on a rifle, okay? So the safety's off, so to speak. The next thing I need to do is I need to add another track and have the music I'm playing along with. I need to have that so I can monitor it. So I would go up here, insert new track, bring that down, and then I would need to dump my MP3 file into it. So I would go up here to insert, click insert, media file, and then locate my media file, which is the Cold Wind, which is what I'm using for this entire process. Okay, that's the song. Then I just hit open and boom, it's in there. Now we need to be able to monitor what we're playing along with in our earphones, okay? Now, if I were to hit record right now, I wouldn't hear this at all. I wouldn't hear that track. I have to turn my record monitoring on. So what I do is I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click this guy right here. And that's our record monitoring. And normally it'll say record monitoring. Okay, see how it just said, okay, come on, come back. There it is. It says record monitoring off. When I click this guy, it's green. That means I'm going to be able to hear it. So if I hit play, I can turn it up and down, okay? Okay, next thing, let's say I'm ready to record, okay? I got my earbuds in, I got my levels set. You want to make sure the Sabian sound kit, if we're doing the 3 mic setup, we want to make sure it's mixed ahead of time, because if one mic is too loud, if the kick drum's too quiet, you're screwed. You got to go back and do it all over again. So you want to make sure that that's as good as it can possibly get before you hit record. You're limited to how much tweaking you can actually do to each drum, okay? That's the great thing about that Sabian sound kit is it's kind of geared towards this type of thing. So a lot of those things are already going to be preset, and it's going to be just more user friendly. So now we're ready to record, okay? So I got my level set. We're ready to go. So just for argument's sake, we're going to pretend like my drum track is just me talking in this microphone right now. So here we go. Hit record. Boo, boo, goo. Ba, boo, ba, boo. Okay. Get through the whole song. I'm happy with it. And I hit stop. And this comes up. Select files to save or delete. Now, if I wasn't happy with it or I didn't make it all the way through the track, I would just hit delete selected right over here. If I was happy with it, I would hit save all. If I wasn't sure and say I just want to keep it, okay, I could hit save all, go back, hit record again, okay. So I'm not actually recording over this. I'm recording another separate track. Hit stop, save all. Now check that out. See right there? There's 2 different audio tracks, okay? I have this one and I have this one. And whichever one I wanted to use, I would just select it, okay? I have already recorded some drums, okay? And I'm just going to dump the file in and kind of just go through the process of editing a little bit and mixing a little bit. Just some quick little tips you can do to make everything sound a little more pro and a little bit better. So I'm just going to insert those files, okay? And I had them down here, and this guy right here, Cold Wind 3 mic. All right. So I'm going to hit open, insert. Okay. Now, see how it wasn't lined up? I had to line that up. Now, if I had used an external recorder like the Zoom IQ7 or the Zoom H6, this would be a little bit trickier, all right? But because I already pre-recorded this, I started recording at the same spot on both tracks. Now, if I had used this, if I was doing this with the Zoom IQ7 or the Zoom H6, I would actually have to go in and expand these audio files like this and then nudge my items so they're lined up and line it up manually, kind of like you have to do in your video editor. This is a little trickier, though. So let's just pretend like I've got a good track and I want to start mixing it, okay? So first thing first is we're going to turn off the arming. The track doesn't need to be armed. So if we go and we listen, let's give her a play right here, okay? Okay. So over here is my mix. I can turn that up or down. Over here is my drums. I can turn that up or down, okay? So the first thing we want to do is we want to get kind of a level set between the two. The next thing we can do is we can add a little compression to that drum track. And what compression does is it makes the loud signal a little bit quieter and makes the quiet signal a little bit louder. It's actually compressing the sound. So let's just say I want to add a little bit of compression over here. So I go over here, all right, and I go down here to FX, and I'm going to add a plugin. That's the cool thing about Reaper is it has hundreds of different plugins. I haven't even scraped the surface of everything this program has got. And it's $60. It's $60. To give you an idea, the power that's in this little $60 program 25, 30 years ago would have been a studio that with millions of dollars worth of gear. Seriously. I mean, there's so much stuff in this thing. It's so much easier than it used to be to record. So, all right, I'm going to add a little compressor. All right, so I go over here, and I'm just going to add Recomp, okay? And the cool thing is there are some presets you can use. I like to use the preset sometimes, and then I will just tweak from there. So for this one, I'm going to use vintage overheads. Now, allegedly, this should be a warmer sound. Okay, so let's mute the track. So this is drums, okay? This is just my drums. Compression on, compression off. Now, that's a little bit much, in my opinion, so I might take that ratio down a little bit. Maybe bump this up a little bit. Take that threshold so it's not so high. And then another thing I could do is I can just add a little bit of EQ, right? So if I go to FX, hit Add, Re-EQ. Then I can just kind of tweak it. I can pull down my highs maybe because, you know, these particular microphones have kind of like they're a little bit high end. I can crank some little mids up. I can do all kinds of stuff. I mean, I can go over here and I can add a little reverb. Say I want to add some reverb on this track. I go, boom. Go over here. I actually like this one. This is the Matrix reverb that on the Apple version of it. So I can go over here. Just let's say I want to add a little bit of room to it. And then I can come up here and I can change how wet or dry I want the reverb. Okay, so that's reverb on, reverb off. And that's quite a difference. It kind of warms up the tone between. Now, of course, you want to do this while you're mixing it with your music. It's still a little too wet, in my opinion. All right, next thing I want to do is I want to just I could do the same thing over here on my master bus. Now, keep in mind, I'm not doing a full-blown mix right here. I'm just doing a quickie. So I would add a little compression to the master bus, little EQ, tweak it. Like, I spend hours mixing my stuff, okay? And you can spend hours too. So the next thing I want to do is I want to just get this track into my video editor. And the process right here is really simple. You need to render the track. So you'd come up here to render, okay? And, okay, so I'm going to put it in better drum covers, the video I'm making right now. Cold test, cold wind test. So let's call this cold wind final, render file. And it's rendering. Now it's just kind of, see how the WAV files are small? That means that's not the best quality. Those are some really small WAV files, so it's not going to sound that great. I didn't spend a lot of time with it. All right, you can put as much into mixing as you want. You can put as little bit into mixing as you want. I personally spend a lot of time mixing. Okay, and then I would take my file, my audio file, and then I would mix it in. I would line it up with my camera video, like I showed you in the video before, line it all up. I could even throw maybe a little camera in there to kind of thicken things up a little bit. And then we're all done. Bob's your uncle. So that's it for part 2. I apologize if I kept you too long. I really try to make these videos short. There's just so much stuff to address that it's hard to get them to come in under 20 minutes. So one thing I did notice as I was looking back on my screen recording is I had slaved track 2 to track 1. I didn't realize that till I was done. So when I was adding reverb to track 1, it was actually coming on track 2 also. So that's just in case you noticed something weird, like it was coming through on the music. It was coming through on the music. And that was not my intention. I apologize for that, for any confusion. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for part 3 where we are going to do a big multi 9-track recording. I'll show you how to set all that up. All right. Thanks for watching.